back to IT-Mate, and a professor who is black claims that he was fired by Indiana University Northwest after speaking out against racism within the school.
He's now taking action in court. IT-Mate's Jasmine Miner reports.
An extensive report done by the American Association of University Professors says if Mark McPhail did not demand change with what he says was racism on campus, he'd still have a job.
Well, one of the biggest claims that was made against you was that you had said something along the lines of, we should kill all white people.
I never said that. And as the report points out, it was like the game of telephone.
The American Association of University Professors agrees. Their report cites 9 interviews with current and former Indiana University employees and found Mark McPhail never made a threat, but instead was discussing the history of racism in the U.S. with an administrator. Then it says he became a target of racism himself.
The data showed that there's a great deal of hostility towards African Americans and primarily African Americans, but I think other people of color on those campuses.
McPhail, IU's former executive vice chancellor and professor of communication, says after he presented research showing serious concerns of the treatment of black students and faculty on campus, complaints were made.
Then I resigned finally in May because there were some complaints made against me by faculty. They were anonymous.
He stepped down as vice chancellor but stayed on as a professor. He kept his tenure but lost 70% of his paycheck. Until September, when police showed up at his door alleging he had made a threat of physical violence at the school, something AAUP found was implausible. He was then fired.
It was pretty traumatic. I hadn't done anything. There was no communication with me about this.
He's now suing for breach of contract, First Amendment violations, and lack of protection from the IU's whistleblower policy.
Do you feel like this was retaliation against some of your research and what you were teaching on campus?
I think that that's what the evidence is going to show in court.
A spokesperson for Indiana University gave IT-Mate this statement, explaining they disagree with the findings in the AAUP report. Because this involves ongoing litigation, we cannot comment further at this time.
The classic story is of George Taliaferro, who was a student at IU, going to Herman B. Wells and saying, hey, they won't let us eat in town. And Wells going into town and saying, well, if they can't eat here, nobody can. And that's the kind of courage that is... It's a concrete commitment to diversity in action and not just words.
McPhail says he's looking for the university to acknowledge their wrongdoing and hold those with what he believes made false allegations against him accountable. I'm Jasmine Miner for Wish TV, IT-Mate.